Hey guys, it's Paradise, and after a fairly sizable new gameplay reveal, we need to talk about Soulframe, the upcoming fantasy MMO light title from Digital Extremes, best known as the creators of Warframe, a game that's been ongoing for over a decade, providing a very solid and consistent free-to-play third-person shooter experience, and it's one that I've personally enjoyed quite a lot for a couple of years since its release, although I'm sure many active Warframe players will see this just as rookie numbers in comparison. So obviously Soulframe, their new title and one that goes in a different direction, has piqued our interest since its reveal, and we've actually done a few videos on this in the past, providing you guys with the latest updates on the game, as we hear new things released from Digital Extremes primarily at TennoCon, a major event for the Warframe community, where they share updates and reveal new content. Well, this time around we got a new and fairly long 17-minute Soulframe gameplay video that has sparked both interest and debate over various aspects of the game that was shown, and honestly, a lot of the criticisms are looking quite valid. However, there is still a lot of potential here for the game to be something pretty cool if the community's feedback can be listened to. Soulframe is positioned as a fantasy counterpart to Warframe's more sci-fi setting. It promises a unique experience while building on the strengths of its developers, but that also means it can suffer from the weaknesses of the developers, which the community have mostly voiced around the melee combat, which is important given that the focus of Soulframe's gameplay is to emphasize more slower paced, methodical combat with supplementary magical elements, which is quite different from Warframe's fast-paced, shooting-focused mechanics. You see, Soulframe is a fantasy game that emphasizes a nature-inspired world with a deep connection to animals and the environment. It aims to offer an open, shared world experience, often described as an MMO light, where players can explore and engage in cooperative gameplay as you traverse the world. It's extremely important to remember that this still is in early development. Despite the significant interest that it's already gathered, it's only actually been in development for around 2.5 years, which is very little for a game this ambitious, meaning there should be ample room for refinement and changes. Digital Extremes' history does make this look slightly promising, as Warframe did have a bit of a rough launch, which I think is easy to forget. They stuck with it, listened to feedback, and provided long-term support and community engagement, showing a willingness to refine the game based on player feedback, which is exactly what Soulframe will need. But I will caveat this and say not all of the community is happy with them for Warframe, so again, it's a bit up in the air, but they have definitely been providing ongoing support for it with continuous improvements, which is a good sign. The recent gameplay reveal has received pretty mixed reactions, especially given the initial excitement and hype around the game. The main issues all stem around the actual combat and gameplay, but to be fair, the rest of what has been shown is largely looking very good. The cutscenes of swooping across a battlefield as the intro to the video looks great. The character creation is done in a very unique and interesting way, where you shape the dialogue as you pick options to your preference. But that being said, this character does look quite uncanny valley, which I'm really hoping they can improve. The world looks pretty mysterious and hopefully is fun to explore, but we also got to see the Nightfold, an area that you can fast travel to at any time in the world when you're not in combat. This is a cool looking place that essentially acts as your hub area. Here you can craft, look up lore, talk with your ancestors, change your gear, and more. They say this area gets expanded in a similar way to building out a village as you collect your ancestors, which is a pretty cool system and sounds really fun as you explore the world, collect your ancestors, build out your hub as you progress in the game. One example we got to see is using fragments that you find in the world and then use them to build custom weapons, and of course they had to add in petting the wolf, so yes, you can pet the doggo. It also looks like there's quite a few cosmetic options to change your appearance in here as well. But when it comes to the actual combat in the footage, it faced criticism for several reasons. The combat animations were noted as being very unpolished and clunky, with perhaps the most egregious example being the build-up to this backstab move. The character goes invisible and flanks an enemy to do a dramatic backstab, in which unfortunately and awkwardly it misses with its animation completely, and the sword just sticks out in the air while still counting as a hit. The movement mechanics were also largely discussed, and the movement of the characters and enemies does appear quite floaty and disconnected from the environment, despite the fact that the game is going for a more weighted and grounded feel to the combat. It basically resembles Warframe's style of movement, which isn't surprising, but understandably it doesn't fit into the slower pace of gameplay that Soulframe is going for. On top of this, there's definitely a lot of refinement needed around the visual clutter. The visual effects in combat are quite excessive, which when paired with the lower field of view and closeness of the character to the camera, makes it very difficult to follow what's going on. So the visuals and the close camera angle really reduce the overall visibility and situational awareness, which you really don't want to have to deal with in a game that focuses on slower paced melee combat. It's not all negatives though. There are the combat related issues which hopefully Digital Extreme will take time to dedicate to and fix, but there's also many aspects of Soulframe's visual and thematic design that has been very well received. The overall setting, the tone, and various world building elements are looking fantastic, and every time they show a cool cutscene or pan of the game's world, it just looks very exciting. There's a lot setting this game apart with its unique features, distinctive character designs, and the player's wolf companion, which just looks awesome. So there's a lot of potential here and a good foundation for a very cool game. It just needs a lot of polish, which I believe could happen, as it's only been in development for a short period of time and Digital Extremes no doubt know that this looks pretty rough around the edges at the moment. But this is in contrast to other parts of the gameplay showcase, where things looked very refined and polished, possibly a reflection of where development time was focused on so far. Certain animations like freeing the rat and it biting you are just fantastically created and very immersive, which is quite the difference to those janky combat animations, jumps, hits, and when getting hit. The witch character also looks fantastic, the character design is great, her animations are believable, and overall it's a fantastic part of the game that they showed. She even has custom reactions to various cosmetic choices you can make, and this includes voice lines depending on what you're wearing, even if your character is nearly naked. Perhaps there's been a little bit of a mix-up in the priorities of where to invest development time, as pretty much everything except the combat, player character, and bosses is looking fantastic, and hopefully they can dedicate more time to these aspects that really need it. But what do you think about all of this and Soulframe in general? Has it piqued your interest? Do you think it looked good, bad? I'd love to know. And make sure you're subscribed for more content coming your way soon for your favorite games.